Good morning. Happy Friday. Happy Preparation Day to you. This is Pastor Vince back with you on the WSLM Radio Ministry Podcast for Friday, October 13th, 2023. And yes, today's Friday the 13th. And we know, or I should say many of us know what Friday the 13th means. You know, it has a negative meaning to it, a negative connotation to it, a vibe to it. I'm not going to get any deeper on that, but it's a beautiful Friday because it's almost the end of the week. I mean, it's the last work day of the week for many of us. It's preparation day, and guess what? I'm off today. I don't have to work my regular 9 to 5 today. That's why I'm on at this time. Normally, I wouldn't be on at this time on a Friday because I'd be preparing for my 9 to 5 job, but I took the day off today from that to be able to spend more time to do, get some things, some personal things done, spend more time with family, etc. So it's a beautiful day for me, and I hope it's a beautiful day for you in some way because it's Friday, right? So I wanted to jump on here really quick to bring you up to speed on what's happening here at the ministry. As I've said before, I never want to get ahead of the Lord. I never want to get ahead of him. I want to just follow his lead. So here's what's new happening here at the ministry since I last told you about what's happening here at the ministry. And normally I would share this information on the Wednesday check-in, but as of a couple of days ago on Wednesday, I did not have this information to share with you. So as I've always said before, if there's nothing for me to share on the Wednesday check-in, then I won't jump on for the Wednesday check-in. But I got something today on this Friday to share with you, so here it goes. Number one, 2 new things happening here at the ministry through the WSLM Radio Ministry Podcast. I told you some time ago that the WSLM Radio Ministry Podcast is on Patreon. And what makes Patreon special from our presence on all the other social media platforms and what have you is the fact that there's going to be exclusive content only on Patreon. It's going to be content that you won't find anywhere else. Okay? So number one is, in 2021, I started writing a book. And like many people, you start writing a book, and for whatever reason, you lose interest, life happens, whatever, things get put off, you throw it aside. And that was the case with me. I started writing it. I mean, I went into it. I went into it with all this energy and so forth in 2021. And like I said, I started it and then I put it down and I was like, oh, well, okay, maybe I'll come back to it later. Well, over the past a couple of days, I felt impressed to come back to the book, to return to the book. And so I am starting to work on that book again. I'm working through it again. So on Patreon, exclusively on Patreon, I want to emphasize that. This is why I'm emphasizing Patreon so much, because again, on Patreon, you're going to get content that you won't get on our other social media platforms. So as I work through this book, I'm going to be sharing excerpts from the book, bits and pieces from the book as I write the book. So of course, you're not going to get everything. You're not going to get the whole book. I mean, by the time the book is finished, you will not have received all the text or all the content of the book, but along the way, I'm going to share bits and pieces as I write the book. So you'll kind of sort of get to see me or witness me writing the book, and you'll be right there with me. But like I said, you'll just be getting bits and pieces. You'll get to see the book unfold right before your eyes, if you will. And once the finished product comes out, then of course you'll have the opportunity to purchase the book. But what I'm saying is that's the newest thing that's going on here at the ministry through the WSLM Radio Ministry Podcast, exclusively on Patreon. I'm going to be sharing excerpts from my upcoming book. I'm not going to tell you the title of the book. I'm not going to get into exactly what the book is going to be about at this time. But I will say that it's a book concerning these last days, the end times. I will tell you that much. So please start supporting this ministry through the WSLM Radio Ministry Podcast on Patreon. That's www.patreon. And in case you didn't know, it's spelled Patreon. www.patreon.com and search for the WSLM Radio Ministry Podcast. The second thing, if you've been following this ministry, if you've been following my personal pages on X, Facebook, you may have seen my postings that have the statement, if you will, my destination, my ministry, my life. That has been my life's anthem, mantra, whatever you want to call it, over the past few months. So a lot of what I share will have that statement attached to it. So what does that mean? Well, when you go to Patreon, you'll see a posting entitled My Destination, My Ministry, My Life. And you'll get to read where that's coming from, what that's all about. You'll get to read the backstory of why that statement, why that anthem is so important to me at this time in my life. I won't say any more. I'll just look for you to go there and read all about it. So when it comes to Patreon, I'm developing, or I will be creating a video diary around that anthem, around that theme of my life. On Patreon, I'll be in different parts of the world because it's going to be involving travel. Again, you'll read more about that when you go to Patreon. Again, what this is all about, you'll get to read the backstory. But by God's grace, I'll be traveling to different parts of the world. And when I'm in these places, I will share my video diary. I will create a video diary, kind of explaining, where I'm at, how this is impacting my faith, my life, etc. All right. So that's number 2. So let me just recap. Number 1, the book I'm working on, I'll share excerpts on Patreon, exclusively on Patreon. Number 2, my destination, my ministry, my life. I will be creating a video diary around that theme, around that mantra, around that anthem from my life. And number 3, which I've already talked about before, I have something called Meditate on the Word. Biblical insights from Pastor Vince. Again, exclusively on Patreon. So this is why I'm emphasizing why I'm pushing Patreon so much, because Patreon is going to be a place, or it's already a place because we're already established on Patreon. Patreon is a place where you will find content that you won't find on Facebook, you won't find on X, on our other platforms. You won't even find on TikTok. I didn't mention TikTok because I have a personal page on TikTok too. So yes, I encourage you. And as others would say in the Bible, I beseech you, which to beseech means to beg. And I'm not necessarily begging you. I don't want to beg you. I'm not trying to force you to do anything. But it'd be great if you would follow the WSLM Radio Ministry Podcast on Patreon. You can become a $5 monthly supporter, monthly member, monthly subscriber. You say, well, Pastor, what do I get for $5 a month? Well, as I just stated, you'll get exclusive content, those 3 things and more that I just shared with you that you won't get on any other platform from this ministry. You'll get exclusive content on Patreon for $5 a month. Number 2, you'll also get free literature from a list of authors that I've explained on Patreon. Again, you can go to Patreon and read more about it. But for every month that you contribute your $5, you'll get a free book from a list of authors. So I can't tell you which title you'll get, but for that particular month that you've contributed, you'll get a title from one of those authors that I've listed on Patreon. So, friend, it's a win-win situation. We win because you're supporting us financially and, you're tapping into the content, and prayerfully, the Holy Spirit, God is moving through that content to bring you closer to Him. So, like I said, it's a win-win situation. You're, like I said, you're supporting us financially, you're tapping into the content. So that's how we're winning. But then you're winning because you're drawing closer to the Lord prayerfully through the content, and you're getting the free book every month. You're getting content that you won't get anywhere else. So what else can I say? Please support us on Patreon, www.patreon.com. Search for the WSLM Radio Ministry Podcast. So that's where we're at this time. I look for the Lord to do way more as time goes on, but he's already done so much up until now. I needed to share that with you. So I'm going to jump off now. I pray that you have a blessed Friday. Enjoy your day. Enjoy the upcoming weekend. Sabbath is just around the corner. When the sun sets this evening on Friday, it will be Sabbath, which is the true biblical Sabbath being Saturday. All right. So many reasons to be happy right now. We're still alive. We're above ground, as they say. We get one more day to make it right. One more day to make it right with the Lord, to allow him to use us to bring others closer to him and to strengthen our relationship with him as well. So with that being said, this is Pastor Vince. I'm jumping off now. Take care. Be blessed. May the Lord be with you. Thank you so much for supporting this ministry through the WSLM Radio Ministry Podcast. Take care.